Hi, everybody. This is Dina Paco of EmbodyTheSacred.net. And today I just wanted to share a little bit about being an energy healer or Reiki practitioner and feeling the call to the shamanic path or feeling the call to shamanism. And what does that look like in today's day and age? So to me, it's a few things. So I've been a Reiki practitioner since 1998. And it's really the foundation of my healing work and has been all of these years. And a few years into practicing Reiki, I realized that there were more skills that I wanted to learn. I really had such profound experiences with Reiki, and I've shared in other videos and on posts on social media how I learned about Reiki when I was recovering from a near fatal car accident. I was already on a spiritual path and had been working with holistic health modalities, but I was recovering from a near fatal car accident. And Reiki helped me miraculously get rid of a limp that I had on my left side. I had shattered both my femurs, so I was recovering from surgery and just trying to learn to walk again with less pain and stiffness, etc. And it was really incredible. It also reduced my pain levels, stress levels, and at the time I was in the corporate world, I also had numbness in both my feet, and just right after my Reiki training, the first level, all the feeling came back in my feet. And then my hands were, my palm chakras, palm energy centers, my hands were pulsing for 3 weeks. So it was almost like the universe was like, we got to make this so obvious so she does not miss just how powerful this work really is. And there are so many things I love about Reiki, the fact that it's so gentle, the fact that you can work with it along with so many other healing practices. And so it was really for me just a few years into practicing Reiki, and I wasn't doing it professionally right off the bat. I, did my Reiki training a few times, practiced on friends and family, and I still had a corporate job at the time of first learning it. And I really felt like there was so much more I could learn. So I started learning different energy medicine practices such as integrative energy therapy, reconnective healing, Donna Eden's practices. I, learned more about traditional Asian medicine when I was in massage therapy school and acupressure. So, it's a vast field, really thousands of years old. So, the initial benefits I found, and then also working with my friends and family, really sort of gave me that encouragement to keep going. So I knew I just wanted to keep learning. And one day, this was just maybe, right after I had started my massage practice and I was doing massage and Reiki, and I really enjoyed it. I just felt this calling to work with a shaman, not to become a shaman, nothing like that. Just I felt like, I was still dedicated to my own learning and healing for myself. And, I said, all right, to the universe, if this is something I should do, work with somebody, show me. I, put my trust in the universe and the divine to guide my path. And within a month, there was a shamanic practitioner that just showed up on the doorstep of the healing center where I was working. So we started doing exchanges and doing healing circles together. And I had already learned about shamanic journeying, but then I started doing journeying with him every week. So it really just sort of expanded and opened up my perspective. Now, there's a vast difference between being a Western practitioner of shamanism and shamanic healing and a true traditional shaman. I don't subscribe to the idea that everyone is a shaman. There's some, really specific cultural aspects, especially being a white practitioner of mixed ancestral traditions and mixed races in my ancestry. But there are ways that we can work with contemporary shamanic practices respectfully. And it's really, to me, just that continuation of the call of the wounded healer. Okay, so what does that really look like? So Traditional shamans, just to share a little bit about them, because there's so much confusion and misinformation about what a shaman actually is. So the title shaman comes from the title Saman, which hails from the Evenki tribal region of Siberia, and also, the Mongolian Evenki region. And these practitioners are called by spirits. They are called by the spirit world, typically an ancestral spirit who was a shaman in a previous lifetime. So they call the current practitioner sometimes as a young child, and the child will go through like various illnesses or accidents or some, mental, psychological breakdown, something like that. And the only thing that helps them is some kind of spiritual intervention. So they might, work with a conventional practitioner, but for some reason it just doesn't work. It's really the spiritual calling, and they have to surrender to this process. And it's not viewed as something that most people would want, because it is a very difficult path. It's a path of hardship and sacrifice, and it's really work that's done in service of the community. It's really taking care of the spiritual foundation of healing for their community. That doesn't mean that they don't have herbalists, that they might not have conventional physicians like we have today in our culture. It doesn't replace something else unless it's a really remote area and the tribe is very isolated. Then the shaman might also have other roles in terms of healing, but it's really handling the spiritual aspect of healing. And their work is done via going into an altered state of consciousness, going into a trance, and going into the spirit world to work with their spirit guides. And sometimes the ancestral spirit will take over their body and work through them. And, it's very difficult work. And sometimes the shamans do die. It's very challenging. So it's not something people in the tribe are like, oh, that's so cool, I want to be a shaman. It's not. It's very difficult work. So how does that look for us today? And, so shamanism really hails from that specific region of the world, but there are shamanistic practices that weave throughout different lineages and traditions. So there are African medicine people, spiritual practitioners who go into a trance and work with their ancestors. Very similar, but their titles are different because they have different languages and different culture. So Sangomas are very similar in Africa. So the Salish tribe in North America, they also have shamanistic practices. Eastern European, it's very close to Asia. So there are shamanistic practices. I have shamanistic practices in my ancestry. Maybe you do too. So they are there, but that title really comes from that specific region. Unless we're initiated directly by a true traditional shaman or udagan, who are the female practitioners, and that name goes back even further than saman or shaman. And we, work with that tribe, say for 10 or 20 years, and they give us the title directly, then it's really not appropriate to take that on for ourselves, despite the fact of what might be shared or spoken about in our conventional society. That's just more of the cultural misappropriation and colonial entitlement, but there are some indigenous healers from other cultures that accept that title, and some that do not. They have their own languages and titles. So getting back to what this looks like for us, and if you're a healer, a spiritual practitioner, and you're feeling like there's some kind of calling, what does that mean? What could that look like? So to me, what it means is there's a strong spiritual calling. You maybe are working with your spirit guides and you want to work with them on a deeper level. You feel a strong calling to work with the earth and nature. So shamans are not the only practitioners who feel that strong connection to the earth. Often what people attribute to shamanism is really animism, the spiritual foundation of shamanism and many other earth honoring practices from ancestral traditions across the globe. Okay. So that's that foundational belief that everything in nature, everything really all around us, from the cosmos to each other, to, the trees and the plants and the stones and the animals, are all interconnected, that we're all connected in the web of life, a web of energy, and that everything is alive and has spirit. So that's animism. It's not shamanism. Shamanism is when a practitioner from that specific region goes into the spirit world and connects with their helping spirits to facilitate healing for the community. Contemporary shamanism and core shamanism are practices that have been adapted from the idea of going into a trance state, connecting with our own spirit guides and helping spirits, and going into the spirit world to facilitate healing. And there are practices like from Dr. Michael Harner that many of us can learn and study and be able to a certain degree connect with our own spirit guides, guardian angels, and ancestors in the spirit world and facilitate healing for ourselves and others after, significant time and practice. So when I felt called to work with that first shaman, it was really just for self-healing. And then I started expanding and learning through working with him, and then working with various indigenous medicine people from North and South America and Tibet, and studying core shamanism. And that's been the past 18 years for me. And so, what really called me was, I had felt the presence of spirit guides and angels and ancestors since I was a young child. I also, in my energy healing practice as a Reiki practitioner, was seeing and feeling things with clients energetically and with different spirits and entities, and not really knowing exactly what to do about that, or who these spirits or entities were, and should I do anything about it. I didn't really have the tools or the techniques to work properly and safely with these energies and spirits showing up. So I wanted to learn more. I really felt as an energy healer that this was my calling. I knew from the profound healing experiences that I had myself with Reiki that this was my calling, to learn to work with energy, to learn to work on the spiritual level. But I knew that there was a lot more to learn. So I dedicated myself to learning and studying these different practices. And then I learned to adapt them to myself and my contemporary life as a Western practitioner, and to do so with respect and humility and permission for my indigenous teachers. So everything that I do with my clients and I share and I teach, I have permission. And that's a big thing. And what I do doesn't replace what they do. What I do is help my clients and students create a foundation of practices, frameworks that you can use to connect with your own spirit guides, find your own spiritual connections to nature, learn some foundational tools, but then you're going to work with them and find your own medicine with them. And also how to connect. A lot of us living here in the West have diverse ancestry, right? We don't come from one place and haven't been living on the land for thousands of years as our ancestors, right? We have mixed races and ancestry. And especially if we're white, we need to especially do this work with respect. So that's something that's been very important to me. And also giving back to these indigenous cultures where the teachings come from. So I've dedicated myself to giving back every month to my teachers, and also to the earth, donating to causes like American forests and planting trees every month, donating to the Amazon jungle to help preserve that, and other more local places to help animals and the land. So there's, that sacred reciprocity that's very important. But you might be, feeling that call, like, what does this mean to me? I know Reiki. I feel like I need more tools. I want to connect more deeply with the spirit world. I want to learn how to cleanse and protect my own energy more effectively, because as an empath, I still feel like I'm picking up stuff. Even if it's not in a Reiki session, it might be in talking to the client before or after the session, or when I go to the grocery store. So there's, a lot to learn in terms of being able to facilitate a deeper level of healing for ourselves and others in the fields of cross-cultural energy medicine, and contemporary shamanism. So that's uh, something that might help if you're feeling that call to hear someone else's story. And if if anything that I've shared is interesting to you, I do have a program designed specifically for Reiki and energy healing practitioners and healthcare practitioners who want to really study and create a strong foundation for yourself with connecting with your guides and angels and how to work with them in your healing sessions, how to connect with the elements more deeply, how to connect and be of service to the earth, how to work with uh, traditional practices where you can bring together all the diverse elements of your ancestry and spiritual uh, connections. So you can go to my website. I'm putting a link down below here to go to that page on my website of my holistic shamanic practitioner program that I've been teaching for about 8 years now. And if it's calling to you, I think you'll know it and you can reach out to me. Okay, thanks so much.